How are you, Jack?
Who am I?
You're great. You're kind and you're handsome and you're wonderful.
People say at some point the excitement fades away, but with you it never has.
I think perhaps in episodic stories, I crave seeing characters whose relationships reflect more accurately the mess or the messy fallout of love. And Alice and Jack is a piece that is about two people who are getting things so horribly wrong and really causing such a mess in their wake, but are unavoidably linked. I think with any deep love, it's completely uncontrollable. It's like, as a friend of mine would say, trying to ride a squirrel. It's not. There's nothing predictable about it. But there's something. Love can look like so many things, and it can be between so many different types of people, and it's endless and vast. I think the more stories we're able to tell that reflect it in its many different nuances and in its many different lights, the better, because love often looks like two people loving each other from a distance for 20 years. It looks like lifetimes of estrangement. It looks like people being very close together. It looks like relationships, no relationship. It looks like being married to other people who you don't have that soul connection with. And I think it's, rather than perhaps the conventional romantic comedy narrative might be, the protagonists might be held to, they may be impossibly good in some way or behaving in a way that is perhaps funny and making mistakes or awkward, but not necessarily, brutal to themselves and one another, which is how sometimes we behave when we're in love, because it brings all of those things, those irritating things that we like to ignore to the surface, like insecurities and terror and obsession. The best way actually to describe it might be to explain what Alice feels when she sits down and unleashes her usual wrath and candour on this unsuspecting app date that she's meeting in a bar, cue Jack, which is that normally that the effect that her sharp tongue has is, and it's with gender, is sex, total lack of intimacy because she's terrified of it and doesn't want to think about it and is not interested in it. But she sees in this person, she sees him receiving her, actually really receiving her, and not wanting to run away from it, but being compelled to, in spite of himself, be pulled closer to it. And as time goes on, we understand more and more about Alice. And I think for many, many reasons, that's why we should persist in telling love stories about people who have had a difficult past, because they, like everybody, are deserving of wonderful love, even if it can't look like the quintessential love story that it perhaps we're used to. Those stories are still as important, and those people are as deserving. Love is for all of us. Well, yes, we've seen each other grow up really in lots of ways. I mean, in the industry, in the sense, at work we have. So we worked together first in our 20s on Never Let Me Go, which was directed by Mark Romanek, and had a lot of people in the UK and Ireland then at the time who, are still all in touch now and often work together. And we played girlfriend and boyfriend, and it was just a lovely experience working with him. I just was so enamoured with his kindness, and it was really really a great experience making that film. And then we made Shadow Dancer a few years later, which was very, very intense, and there was huge amounts of tension. Not in life, just on set, but it was a very different dynamic. And then we came together on this, and that was, in many ways, a complete accident, because Vic had wanted he and I to play these roles. I sort of came on board, and Donal and I read at the same time, but I came on board, and then about a year later, I don't know whether it was 6 months or a year later, or maybe it was a bit more than that, I'm not sure, he came back and said, I just can't stop thinking about this, and he didn't know I'd been sent it. And I didn't know he'd been sent it, you know, so it was so fortuitous. And then at the same time as I was sent it, before he comes on board, at the same time as I was sent it, I met my partner and the great love of my life. And so it felt really perfect and fitting. I also felt, I think probably the better way to say it was I felt capable of playing the part.